Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the book launch and discussion on emerging digital technologies and India's security sector, AI, blockchain, and quantum communications. Edited by Dr. Pankaj Jha, Dr. Arun Teja Polchupally, and Mr. Vedant Saigal. I am Vanshika, Assistant Program Coordinator at Jindal India Institute, and I'm honored to be your moderator for the event. Before we start with the event, I'd like to invite the directors of the center, Professor Colonel Shashank Ranjan, Professor Gitanjali Sinha Roy, and Dr. Pooja Bhatt, along with Mr. Vedant Saigal, editor and chapter contributor, to unveil the book. Today's session is organized by the esteemed Jindal India Institute in collaboration with Pankaj Kumar Jha Center for Security Studies. The Jindal India Institute is an independent and non-partisan strategic think tank initiative of the OP Jindal Global University, established on January 26 this year. JII aims to intellectually decolonize the study and depiction of India and spread global awareness about India's extraordinary accomplishments and potential in the 21st century. It aims to usher in a culture and practice of high quality research, analysis, policy advocacy, and training that enable a self defined and self confident India to emerge as a world leader. JII's strategic goal is to narrate the remarkable Indian story to the world. With a resolute commitment to propelling the Indian century, JII is actively working towards fulfilling national objectives for the centenary of India's independence in 2047, and also to develop an imagination and roadmap for long term strategizing on how India can be a world leader for the entire 21st century. I would now like to invite Harini, Center Coordinator at PKJ CSS, to talk about the center.
Good morning and welcome to today's book discussion. I'm Harini Vallal J, a final year student of Bachelor's in Global Affairs. It is my great honor as the Center Coordinator to introduce the Pankaj Kumar Jha Center for Security Studies, or PKG CSS. The center was established in 2020 as the JSI's first student-run research center. It was founded under the visionary leadership of Dr. Pankaj Kumar Jha, whose untimely passing on May 20th, 2024 left an irreplaceable void. Yet, his legacy of mentorship and unwavering dedication to the advancement of knowledge continues to inspire us. In tribute to Dr. Jha's contributions, the Center for Security Studies has been renamed the Pankaj Kumar Jha Center for Security Studies. This renaming reflects his tireless efforts, passion for research, and commitment to nurturing young minds, laying the foundation for our ongoing work in security studies. Today, PKG CSS is proudly led by Professor Gitanjali Sinha Roy, Professor Shashank Ranjan, and Professor Pooja Bhatt, who bring their own expertise, passion, and dedication to the center. Under their guidance, PKG CSS remains committed to the comprehensive study of security in today's complex and interconnected international environment. At PKJ CSS, we address security beyond traditional state and warfare concerns, covering political, economic, military, environmental, and social dimensions. Our research includes cyber and space warfare, the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction, and resource related security, aiming to advance global security discourse through thorough analysis and publications. As we discuss key issues in international security today, we honor Dr. Jha's legacy and strive towards a more secure and just world. We welcome your collaboration, participation in our events, and engagement with our research to build upon Dr. Jha's vision and make a significant impact in the world. Thank you all for being here, and I look forward to a thought-provoking and enriching discussion. Now, I welcome Professor Gitanjali Sinha Roy to give her opening remarks.
Thank you, Aruni. Firstly, a very warm welcome and good morning to everyone here. Today is a bittersweet moment because, of course, this is the launch of a very important book and a very important book because of the relevance that it contains. But it's also sad because today we don't have one of our main contributors, Professor Pankaj Kumar Jha here. Today, of course, we are launching the book and we'll be discussing about the book, The Emerging Digital Technologies and India Security Sector, Artificial Intelligence, Blockchain, and Quantum Communication, edited by Professor Pankaj Kumar Jha, Arun, and Vedant. And I would also like to thank Vedant, Arun, and Purnima for joining us here today. I went through the book and I found a couple of points that I'd like to highlight. So, the book highlights the conceptual understanding of the technological impact of military affairs, and that makes it very, very important in the present context. The book also covers the global competition among digital technologies on Russia, China, and the US. So, it's a very good book for case studies. Thirdly, this book deals with data influenced geopolitics and the importance of AI, blockchain technology, and quantum communication in military affairs. And today, that is very, very important, and we will see how we discuss it while the event takes place. Finally, this book also deals with India's position and readiness with regard to these advanced technologies. So, we will actually be learning that as well. Um, while I read this book, I realized this book is, of course, for academicians, for defense people, for students like all of you who are looking to work in advanced technologies, because this book basically talks about the securitization of the world at the moment. Um, Having spoken about security, I would like to speak a little about our much loved and respected late Professor Pankaj Kumar Jha, very fondly known as Pankaj sir and PK sir. The sudden and untimely demise of Professor Jha has left a major void in our hearts, and I doubt it can ever get filled. Um, Professor Jha was not only a wonderful teacher, but was an excellent mentor and a researcher. Professor Jha's research focused on path-breaking findings, and he had this beautiful skill of preempting the future in IR and security relations. It is a personal experience that I've had with him, and when I started working with him pre-COVID years, I made it a point to read all his article which he wrote in 2000s. And whatever I read in the 2000s, I realized that what he wrote in 2000s is present now. So he had actually preempted the future. So he had that beautiful gift. Apart from that, when Professor Jha or Pankaj sir formed CSS, his main focus was to make students research ready and always give every student a chance to read and write and publish. So that's something I think we really take forward from him. Um, Also, everyone has known Pankaj sir to have a great sense of humor, and he was always having this beautiful, congenial smile. And his last time also, he went smiling. So, as we remember Professor Jha today, um, I would say the best way to carry forward his legacy is to take forward all his work and make sure that we make him proud. May I now request everyone to please stand up and observe a 1 minute silence for our beloved late Professor Pankaj Kumar Jha.
Thank you so much, Professor Sinha Roy, for the opening remarks and sharing something that is very close to your heart with all of us. I would also like to welcome and introduce our esteemed discussant, Professor Colonel Shashank Ranjan, Associate Professor of Practice, JSIA, and Director, PKJ CSS, along with our three chapter contributors, Dr. Arun Teja Polchupally, Technology Policy Manager at PACTA, Mr. Vedant Saigal, Assistant General Manager, Office of International Affairs and Global Initiatives, OP Jindal Global University, and Dr. Purnima R. Vijaya, Assistant Professor of Political Science and International Relations, Sikkim Manipal University. Colonel Shashank, I would request you to kindly initiate the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Vanchika. Dr. Pooja and Dr. Geetanjali, my colleague, fellow panelists, big thanks to you, Arun, and Purnima, and of course, Vedant. It's indeed a privilege for me to have been given this opportunity as my maiden interaction with the center. And of course, this very important project, the very important discussion, which has got a lot of emotional and sentimental value also for all of us, apart from the intellectual prowess that this book possesses. In next about 10 minutes or so, though Professor Geetanjali touched upon few facets of the book, I would like to cover salient aspects of this very relevant and contemporary, subject. And my claim to commenting on, or my observations on the book is my probably 32 years of experience in the army. But then I was an infantryman, nowhere near the technology. I was a user actually, who was having a view and feel of the technology from a ringside. So basically, I would like to start with by saying that we live in the times of ubiquitous connectivity where businesses and societies, including the militaries, are connected. Now, I have taken certain portions of this from the chapters and what introduction and conclusion, the chapter which Dr. Jha had authored. By the virtue of control over data, not only the state, but also the social platform floated by private entities, I emphasize on this, play a significant role. These private entities, what I am talking about, or the multinational companies, or whatever name you give them, these have emerged as, I feel, the new non-state actors. So far, we've been, referring to non-state actors as, the violent non-state actors, identifying our, reference to the terror groups, etc. But we have in these private entities new non-state actors, which often have an edge over the state in data accessibility and technological capabilities. The world witnessed exceptional role. We all, have been following over last 2 years plus the Russia-Ukraine war. And during the beginning of the war, initial stages of the war, we saw the exceptional role that Elon Musk and his SpaceX played during initial stages. That is, providing connectivity to Ukraine and various other, facilities, which Elon Musk came ahead and supported by world activists, etc., on the cyber realm. However, notwithstanding the power or the role of these non-state actors, it is always the state as the legitimate authority that exercise control. The states constantly seek to consolidate and enhance their efforts towards controlling information and communication technologies, or ICT as we refer it to. Therefore, it becomes imperative that the states, they adapt by bringing in institutional and cultural transformation. This is where, our discussion would figure in when we talk in the context of the countries, and especially in our context, that is the Indian context. The major world powers have taken note of the potential of emerging technologies as the most crucial facet to secure their power. Also, given the role of private players in R&D and innovations, the significance of civil-military fusion is more glaring than ever before. And here, I would like you all to take note of the term fusion, civil-military fusion. It is much more, than civil-military integration or civil-military cooperation. When we say fusion, it is enmeshing of not only the physical realm, but also of the thought processes and culture. That's why I referred to earlier the cultural transformation, which is very important. Virtual reality, AI, blockchain, quantum, as Professor Geetanjali mentioned, are the technologies which this book has, in a very meticulous manner, delved into. The first chapter, while discussing state efforts to enhance control over ICT, also points at a caveat, which is overexuberance by states often end up infringing on civil liberties of citizenry, knowingly or unknowingly. I mean, I leave it open ended. Some states do it knowingly to control the population, to control the thoughts. I'll be talking about that slightly later. And some unknowingly, of course. And we have seen how important civil liberties are. At times, civil liberties are higher in priority than, economic development. We have seen in recent months the developments in Bangladesh. Vis-a-vis the readiness of Indian security establishments, the government, academia, think tanks, armed forces, etc., have to be brought in sync. Several initiatives are being undertaken by the government toward this. We shall be talking about it later, and I'm sure the contributors, the authors, would also be harping on it. And late Professor Jha, in his concluding chapter, has discussed these in some detail. Now, in order to make innovation drive successful, a whole of nation approach is imperative. It is not only about military, or it is not only about security sector, but a whole nation approach is imperative. And sensitization to the security concerns is necessary. And we all know that as on today, as we speak, our country doesn't have a formal national security doctrine document. So national security doctrine document may be, in case, classified material of that is a matter of concern, then I feel a relevant portion of it should be put in open domain so that all the stakeholders are aware as to what we are looking forward to. The second chapter introduces us to contemporary concept of revolution in military affairs. We all have heard about it, RMA. There's a school of thought influenced by the emerging disruptive technology, which calls RMA as DMA, or disruption in military affairs. And disruption, we all know, is nothing destructive about, but it is, change, a revolutionary change from what we had been practicing hitherto, and what, because of technology, we get onto. For example, the smartphones, etc., which were unthinkable, say 20, 25 years back, but now they have become part of our life. Nature of war, it is said, remains constant. I mean, attrition, destruction, imposing of will, etc. However, the character of war keeps evolving, depending upon the time, the technology. And today, digital technology, emerging technology, artificial intelligence, etc., have altered the character of war. An extremely valid argument in the chapter, in the first chapter, basically, authored by Dr. Arun, is that AI and other emerging technologies cannot be applied in a stand-alone mode. The chapter also points towards creeping obsolescence of hard power of the nations, of the militaries, in wake of emerging technologies. We shall discuss these issues later with the authors during the Q&A. The third chapter discusses in detail the competition between major powers, as Professor Geetanjali was bringing out earlier, between China, Russia, US, and as to where India stands. And of course, the bottom line is that the states that do not focus correct on developing and applying emerging technology are bound to lag behind. The last chapter of part 1 brings, I forgot to make a mention, the book is divided into 2 parts. So part 1 is basically talking, setting tone for the discussions and specific nuances of part 2. So the last chapter of part 1 brings out philosophical nuances in relation to AI with contextual reference to its impact on society, the aspects of thought control, the aspects of influencing elections. For example, we have been seeing examples in our case also, especially in case of America in the year 2016. And even now, as we speak, Iran has been involved in pilfering into the emails of the candidate, the staff of the candidates who are contesting the elections in US. So that has become a very important facet. The concept of this thought control being the essence and the double-edged potential of data has been highlighted in this chapter. And while discussing the non-traditional security threats resulting from power of data, references to the works of scholars like Jamie Susskind and Yuval Noah Harari are in vogue. In this context, I would like to like you all to take a note. Next month, there's a book by Harari being released called Nexus, and I'm sure it will be very interesting, and we all should look forward to go through that. The part 2 of the book builds upon the tone set by part 1, as I said. The chapters in this section, other than the issues brought out in part 1, explore application of AI in the Indian Armed Forces in both offensive and defensive operations, field of quantum communication as to how quantum key distribution, and the aspects have been explained in quite a detail in the chapter. Shall be quantum QKD or quantum key distribution shall be the way ahead towards communication and unparalleled security in digital domain. This is going to be the future because of the characteristics and the speciality of quantum technology towards encryption. Stock taking of present capabilities in quantum, blockchain, and cyber security, wherein the relative standing of US, China, Europe, and India has been carried out. And of course, nuances of cyber security structure in India and the gaps therein are also touched upon in the chapters. In essence, I would like to add the makeover of national security is an inescapable imperative. In recent times, we indeed have begun to respond to ongoing change. The mantra for the future, I feel, must be to anticipate and drive change in order to define the future. Data is now a weapon system in the modern toolkit of all advanced military security architecture. We need to invest significantly in the triad of data, algorithm, and computation, as well as manage, secure, and leverage data for superior operational effect. Late Professor Jha has authored the concluding chapter, as I said earlier, and has drawn several issues that the chapters cover and much more. He brings to our attention several initiatives in the desired direction by the government. It's not that the government has been complacent about it, and several initiatives have been taken. For example, setting up of new emerging strategic technologies division in the Ministry of External Affairs that works with possible joint ventures and scout for the pioneering efforts made by countries across the world. This part of the diplomacy of ours. And this has resulted in our cooperation with our strategic partners in terms of initiatives like IndusX, ISET, etc. Institutionalizing of design bureaus in the service headquarters and in the MOD. We may probably, during the Q&A session, or I would like to just flag as to how these design bureaus are making a difference by hand-holding the startups, which are a key to innovations and towards modernization. Also, collaborative efforts on R&D amongst military, academia, industry is a work in progress. The need is to scale up these above initiatives and consider these as our existential requirement. Late Professor Jha very rightly has opined that in addition to a national security doctrine, there's a definite need for a cyber security strategy document towards, again, a concerted effort by various stakeholders. In the end about the book, I would like to add that this scholarly work is indeed a stellar contribution to the field, to study of emerging digital technologies and its application in India's security sector. And I'll go slightly beyond what the flyer of this event said. This work is much more than merely an introductory account for researchers, practitioners, and policymakers. My compliments to all the authors, panelists who have taken time out and made themselves available here. I'll now request Dr. Arun to deliver his talk. Speakers are requested to take about 15 minutes each. And after Dr. Arun shall be Dr. Purnima, followed by Mr. Vedant. So Dr. Arun, over to you.
Thank you very much, Colonel. That was very detailed overview of the book. And I'm happy that you have actually gone through or at least skimmed through the book entirely. I'm really happy. So coming to this book, first I would like to highlight what made us write this book? What is the caveat that me and Professor Jha came across is that while we are searching on the internet, be it Google Scholar or Microsoft Academia, we used three keywords: emerging technologies, security sector, and India. And after that, we got two sets of results. Microsoft Academia is one set, Google Scholar is another set. And we have gone through all the 10 search pages. That means 10 into 10, 100 articles in Microsoft Academia, and similarly in the Google Scholar. And what did we find? In Microsoft Academia, we found nothing related to India's security and emerging digital technologies. But however, coming to Google Scholar, we found a few, but there was no comprehensive notes or comprehensive article or a book on this particular topic. And that is where we thought this is a missing piece of literature. What if we would like to start a research which conducts research on or at the intersection of emerging digital technologies like AI, blockchain, and probably their policy implications in the Indian security sector or even military applications? Do we have any relevant literature? The answer is no. So that is how we started conceptualizing the book. And let me bring you some interesting conversations between Michael Faraday and William Gladstone. I hope you know who is Michael Faraday and William Gladstone. Michael Faraday is a scientist. William Gladstone is a businessman and also politician of Great Britain. So this conversation is very interesting. When Michael Faraday has gone to William Gladstone and said, "Hey, I have this beautiful invention which is called electricity. Do you want to use it? Do you want to sell it?" He said, I want William Gladstone to use it. He said that the William Gladstone question was, what would I do with this? I do not know what is the uptake in the market. I do not know if I get profits on this or not. The answer from Michael Faraday was, you can tax it. That means it's not just a good that can be sold to someone. It will be a good, or it will be a common good. It will be utilized by everyone. So such is the importance of that invention, electricity. So taking cue from this conversation, let me take you guys through what Jeff Bezos of Amazon says and what Jamie Susskind says, and actually what Brad Smith of Microsoft says. They say that technologies like cloud services, AWS, or internet, or even AI will be very much similar to electricity. That means they will become a necessity in a society. But you have to observe a key difference here. Electricity is provided not by the private players, but public sector units. But when it comes to these digital technologies, they are provided by private entities. So the entire landscape changes. The thought of security changes. This was the foundation for us to write this book. And what does this book contain? Initially, if you take this book, it doesn't say that private companies are gaining so much power. They are gaining some agency, probably over states. No, that doesn't say. This book starts by saying that states are still powerful. The agency, the relative agency, still rests with the states. Though there is an increasing in agency or the nexus between private companies and the state are the trustful entities which people have contracted with. You might have heard domestic social contract. That is not between states and people, but that's between people and state. Sorry, it's not between companies and people. It's between public and state, and that is the reason. No matter how powerful these companies become, state will have the responsibility and capacity to control. Then it goes and it provides a decent understanding of how revolution in military affairs has to be understood. So this book will not say that digital technologies like AI is bringing some revolution. No, it is not. Because when we mention something like a RMA, that means that entire structure of the organization has to be changed. So that is not possible. Probably a bits and pieces it will change, and definitely there will be an enhancement in the organizational efficiency, but perhaps RMA is not possible entirely. So with that cue, it provides a brief understanding of the global scenario. What are the major players right now? Is India the major player? I don't think it is. Because when you look at all the most advanced innovations in the artificial intelligence segment, there are only three players: Google, Meta, and the third player is China. Should carefully observe this. I said Google, Meta, and China. I did not say US, Russia, and China. So you have to observe the beautiful nuances that are emerging because of the nexus between digital technologies and the geopolitics and state. And next, I'm talking about the part one of the book. Now, finally, in the part one, it brings you the concept of securitization of data. We all use data. I hope everyone gives away their phone number in grocery stores or any shopping malls. What do they do with this? Why is it okay for us to give away the data? That means that securitization aspect has not been ingrained in us, especially with respect to data. So that, in the context of national security, is brought up in the final chapter of the part one. So this lays the entire foundation of what exactly is digital technologies and their intersection with the military affairs and India's security sector. Then we go to the part two, where our contributors have explained in detail about how AI is impacting national security. Please, I'm putting out right there. When I mention national security, I don't mention security in traditional sense. I mean security in a holistic sense. Security of democracy is also a national security. Security of civil rights is also a national security. If your digital technologies and citizens' engagement with the digital technologies is hampering democracy and their rights, it is a matter of grave concern. It has to be securitized. So, three case studies: AI, blockchain, quantum communications have been provided in the first three chapters of the part two. After providing this explanation on three technologies, it explains about the cybersecurity frameworks. Do we need them? Do we have any policy or not? And what kind of evaluation do we require? This is an entirety of the book, but I would want everyone to bring to certain different aspect of non-traditional security of data and emerging digital technologies. You have to look at what kind of AI policy India has drafted. Go to Niti Aayog's policies, the first draft and the subsequent responsible AI draft 1 and draft 2. There is no policy. There are only discussion drafts, which is in 2017. And then subsequently, there are two drafts released by Niti Aayog. And then there is a digital competition bill. We have DPDP Act. Rules are not yet released. These are all caveats one has to observe to understand how is government moving towards securitization of data and emerging technologies. And DPDP, we have many issues. Is DPDP comparable to GDPR? That's a question mark. It's a good research item for CSS. And another question I would want to bring is, can we have something similar to EU AI Act, EU Artificial Intelligence Act? In India, we only have drafts. So what's the process for that? How do we go to that? So all these questions, if you have to address it, if you have to get deeper into research on these type of questions, I would say this book will provide a foundational understanding. And lastly, this is my last talk regarding this book in this particular session, 15 minutes slot that I've been given. I would like to highlight some of the future agendas, the future research agendas that this book can possibly lay foundation to. One recent development is Commonwealth AI Consortium has developed a regional AI policies for Commonwealth countries. Can India develop something like that? Can we have a BIMSTEC AI policy? Can we have a SARC AI policy? Why do we need to have a regional AI policies? Can't we have national AI policy and just be done with that? The answer is no. Once you develop an AI technology, it has to be used by the region. The entire concept of internet is that whole people will use it without any political borders. So if that is the foundation of HTTP, if that is the foundation of internet, that has to be the foundation of other applications that you develop on that. You cannot sideline the entire thing and say, I'll develop my own internet and I'll develop a siloed application. That's the reason one has to think about regional AI policies, regional securitization policies. That's the first. And what kind of risk assessments can we make? Do we have any framework of risk assessments for security? If I say AI has to be implemented, one has to conduct an ex-ante risk assessment. What are the frameworks for that? Can we develop them? We have to develop them. NIST of the United States has already have a framework which has risk assessment, ex post, and also ex ante. Can we borrow some of the salient features and develop for it in India? This is one of the other research area one can get into. So I would say, in and all, we have good. We have a long way to go ahead. We need to have various frameworks, both nationally, regionally, and perhaps internationally. This book will definitely provide a foundational grounding to understand these things and then move forward with the other research agendas. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Arun. May I now request Dr. Purnima?
Good morning to everyone present here. I'm Dr. Purnima Vijaya, and I recently completed my PhD in International Relations and graduated from Jindal School of International Affairs, OP Jindal Global University. I'm now an assistant professor of political science and IR at Sikkim Manipal University in Sikkim. I'm delighted to be here as part of the launch of the book Emerging Digital Technologies in India's Security Sector, AI, Blockchain, and Quantum Communications. I thank late Professor Jha, Dr. Arun, and Vedant for an opportunity to contribute a chapter on the quest for military supremacy, the US versus China versus Russia. In contemporary geopolitics, the vital issue is the era of mounting strategic competition in several spheres, such as political, economic, military, technology, space, and all of this which are constantly causing significant alterations in the international security environment. The Trump presidency took a stern stance on China by describing it as a revisionist power that is seeking to change the status quo and displace the United States in the Indo-Pacific region. And this was mentioned in the 2017 National Security Strategy document. Similarly, in 2018, National Defense Strategy labels China as a strategic competitor engaging in greedy economics and offensive military capabilities in order to coerce the states in the Indo-Pacific region. However, Biden's challenge comprises of a rapidly growing China in many areas, including military production, technology, innovation in cyber, space, and essentially mounting a sphere of an influence of its own. Amid such challenges, Biden and his senior officials of his administration are perceptively at odds between advocating competition and engagement simultaneously. Strategic competitions are not new, of course. If you were to see, they're deep-rooted in antiquity. From the Spartan and Athenian grand strategies in the 5th century BCE to the ideological dissections that we see between the Soviet Union and United States during the Cold War era. Today, the United States sustains a long-term security test in several areas worldwide, and it endures a complicated relationship, especially with China and Russia, and that is deeply rooted in cooperation, conflict, and competition all at the same time. So if you were to see also that in August 2021, China actually took the military intelligence across the globe by surprise when it tested its nuclear-capable hypersonic missile, which circumnavigated the globe before it hit its apparent test target. So as advancements come to the fore, new threats also emerge for nations to mitigate. And if, there were two Chinese hackers who were actively working with the state officials of China, and they were charged by the Department of Justice for hacking into computers of several hundred people, including people from government, private companies, and NGOs. And they were basically targeting confidential information and intellectual property. So if you were to see similarly, in the future of Russian warfare is also vested in asymmetrical advantages. As Putin unveiled in 2018, his super regime, that's the term for super weapons that he calls, a new and advanced form of weapons that is basically signaling Russia's intent to counter the perceived conventional military superiority of great power competition such as the US and NATO allies. So as new geopolitical theaters such as the Indo-Pacific rise as a sphere of geopolitical rivalry, power competition, for hot conflicts, as well as for strategic partnerships, the emergence of a so-called new Cold War between the United States and China adds complexity to the regional security and international cooperation. Furthermore, a revisionist China is challenging the post-1945 US-led world order. And it is basically combined with a proliferation of hybrid warfare and its perceptive gray zone tactics. And all these adds even more complexity in a hyper-connected world such as ours. In addition, China's information and intelligence efforts are not without the emphasis on military might, thereby considering that their emerging technologies, be it in quantum computing or artificial intelligence, cloud computing, or even unmanned weapon system, they're pushing towards a more intelligentized warfare. The strategic objectives, if you were to see for Russia, in this military rivalry is to basically preserve its security, its forms of government, and economic prosperity. But looking further closely, such goals is also to realize Russia's strategic ambitions to create a sphere of influence of its own in the immediate post-Soviet neighborhood. So the efforts to stop the enlargement of NATO and to also limit the expansion of EU can be analyzed as Russia's endeavors towards the creation of its own sphere of influence. These strategies are, however, not very well articulated as a cogent strategy in their documents. However, Russia's flexibility, their reactiveness, and their practice of several forms of aggressive warfare keeps Russian options open in order to accommodate even contingencies for tactical planning and in order to realize their larger strategic ambition towards military and technological innovation. So rapid advancements in disruptive technologies are now basically altering the nature of military capabilities and strategies. Modern battlefields, including conventional, sub-conventional, and nuclear ones, are being decided by emerging technologies such as autonomous weapons, cyber weapons, weaponization of space, AI, either alone or in combination with conventional modes of warfare. In short, the patterns of strategic competition is much more complex, diverse, and capricious, with numerous competitions overlapping under different rules. Significant innovations in Chinese and Russian capabilities intensified the strategic competition between these three nations. And this has also led to a diminished power differentials between the three. Therefore, the means to engage in this competition lies in various pursuits of economic prosperity and security through institutionalized frameworks and for strident efforts towards military, technology, and political rivalry in order to further one's own power. Even Prime Minister Narendra Modi actually stated that India, being a latecomer to indigenous capacity production in contemporary military hardware, it faces an urgent risk to fusing the third and the fourth industrial revolutions and basically improve the military capabilities of India. Considering that revolutionizing military affairs using advanced technology is crucial to the survival, security, and strategy of great powers, and also to those countries who are aspiring for a great power status. This book is extremely timely to help us understand the various aspects of such technologies. This book is also important due to the times that we are in, the emerging technology, and to understand the India's security sector. But besides just looking into various aspects of tech, this book also gives a great primer to the geopolitical competition in the field of technology and how it's creating a certain sense of insecurity and a sort of tech race between major powers like the US, China, and Russia. I once again thank and remember Professor Jha very fondly for all his support and encouragement throughout my PhD as well as the journey of the book. I also thank my dear colleagues for this opportunity and my heartfelt gratitude to Jindal India Institute, CSS team, Professor Gitanjali, Professor Shashank, and Dr. Pooja for this organizing this wonderful event. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Purnima, for this insightful talk, and of course, which was based on the chapter which you have authored for the book. For the audience, just want to flag when Dr. Purnima was mentioning about relative initiatives or development, amongst various countries and comparing with where we stand. I'll just would like to draw your attention to the an organization called DARPA with America, with US, and structure of something what we have got, DRDO. Criticizing or critique or smelling the coffee should not be taken as trying to think about the country in a low manner, but it is to improve upon learning lessons.
Sure.
DARPA has got a very slim and trim organization, and they are basically coordinating agency and facilitating innovations and research. Whereas our DRDO, which is of course under reforms, and we hope that they happen sooner the better. DRDO has got 52 labs and a workforce of approximately 25,000. Almost half of DRDO's budget go into revenue expenditure. That is, revenue expenditure is basically paying salaries, pensions, etc., and not going into R&D. And very briefly, the R&D figures, when we compare our spending on R&D, and when we compare with China, India spends approximately 0.7% of its GDP on R&D compared to 2.1% by China. And then GDPs, you can make out proportionately how wide the gap is. In 2022, there's a data figure. Indian and Chinese R&D expenditure, India's was 65.2 billion US dollars, and China's was 551 billion US dollars. So, I mean, we see the gap here, and this gap, unless, as I said earlier, we wake up, smell the coffee, going to be, widening increasingly day by day. And the asymmetry which we have with China in terms of hardware, it's all known to us. It can be bridged by what Dr. Purnima was mentioning, if we develop in AI and the concept of straight away leaping onto the fourth version or whatever version of industrial revolution, even if we have missed the bus somewhere earlier. So thank you, Dr. Purnima, for this. And please don't go anywhere. We will be getting back to you with questions. Yeah, Vedant, over to you.
When I was a student here in Jindal School of International Affairs, I did post my bachelor's, and my postgrad, Professor Pankaj, was a great mentor to me. And there was this email I checked, one day, that Arun and Professor Pankaj had sent that, we are working on this project on emerging technologies and AI. And would any of the CSS interns or research assistants would like to contribute to the project? So this is where I started working on the project. It was back in 2020, so it took us around almost 4 years to get this book out and to be able to, complete the whole project. So I'm not going to give you a very detailed introduction of the book, but I'm going to talk about my chapter because, the introduction you already know. It's all said by Arun and Professor Ranjan. So to start, I would say that digitalization is imperative to improve the operational readiness and combat efficiency of the military altogether. and this book is primarily a foundational text to help India understand its readiness to become a better digitalized force. Right? This book attempts to map the revolutionary change in warfare and emerging digital technologies with India as a vantage point. Right? Now, my chapter in the book, named Artificial Intelligence and Its Probable Military Disruptions, attempts to explore the usage of AI in the Indian armed forces, so Navy, Army, and the Air Force. It primarily focuses on how AI acts as an additional capital requirement to counter the challenges faced by the Indian defense establishment altogether. The military forces continuously seek greater combat effectiveness, and they can do so by establishing more research and development in the field of AI. Today, to be very honest, there is a very strong belief that the existential crisis that the world is facing is about the imbalance between humanity at the advent of digital super intelligence, which is also known as the artificial intelligence. Now, they must be symbiotic in nature. Now, however, this chapter reflects a very contradictory approach that AI can be used for the betterment of mankind. Right? Giving a few examples on how terms like neural networks, deep learning, and even machine learning has sort of narrowed down the concept of AI and reflected its usage in both civilian and military domains, has given an imperative for bringing AI to a more mature stage. Now, be it in transport, Tesla being one of the greatest examples, be it in health diagnosis, say ChatGPT today is playing a very, is a huge example to set to simplify human efforts in deriving data or even analyzing it, right? The overall productivity through AI in different sectors provide a wide range of use cases. Now, we do understand that AI is revolving around cyberspace, and it is definitely prone to certain attacks itself, right? So this is where the securitization of the book and securitization domain comes in, and the impact on the industries, variety of industries, is tremendous. And it is clear that with this understanding that the race to achieve AI advancements is getting difficult. This is evident with Russian President Putin's statement that whoever controls AI will control the world. Is it really the case? Well, time will tell. And even Elon Musk had mentioned in one of his speeches that AI is or could be the last invention ever. Such declarations indicate the importance of investing in future technologies. And precisely, it will depend on national requirements of countries across the globe. Digital India, an initiative by the Indian government, Center for Artificial Intelligence and Robotics called CAIR, C-A-I-R, a laboratory by DRDO, have helped significantly to enhance traditional techniques that were used to monitor the criminal networks and threat data altogether. So coming to the usage of AI in the Indian armed forces, it has primarily defined how the combat capabilities of armed forces are getting ready to equip and absorb such technologies. The empowerment of weapon systems in the modern warfare today reflects the significant contributions of AI. When talking about the battle space superiority, AI definitely is the key. Now, when I talk about this section of my chapter, it is divided into three parts: Navy, Air Force, and the Army, which are the three branches of the Indian Armed Forces. And I'm firstly going to talk about the Indian Navy. So when you talk about the detection of hydrostatic pressure, and if you also talk about the determining factors for the oceanic salinity, AI does play a very, very important role. So these unmanned technologies that function through AI make an indispensable asset to the Indian Navy. I'm sure to the other branches of the Indian Armed Forces, which I'm going to talk about. The Indian Navy, for that matter, is making tremendous efforts to leverage AI to modernize its operations. The launch of 75 newly developed AI products during the first ever symposium on AI in defense by the Defense Minister Rajnath Singh sets a good example. Some initiatives by the Indian Navy include the autonomous intercept vessel to handle surveillance and exploratory missions. Hawk Secure is one of the biggest examples of the Indian Navy in order to boost cyber security measures. The Indian Navy has developed a cutting-edge engine capable of analyzing behavioral patterns and identifying any potential cyber threats altogether, and also ensuring the protection of sensitive information. INS Valsara, the center of excellence to stay ahead of the curve in rapidly advancing era of AI. The Indian Navy established a cutting-edge lab in INS Valsara in 2020 and has been since then designated as the center of excellence in big data, right? Now I talk about the Air Force. So now when it comes to the Air Force, the use of stealthy swarms of tiny spy drones, UAVs, unmanned aerial vehicles, and UCAVs, unmanned combat aerial vehicles, sentry robots, and even missiles with decision-making capabilities is becoming more common in the modern warfare today. Even though we understand that, the majority of these weapons are currently operated by humans themselves, the paradigm as a whole is shifting towards lethal autonomous weapon systems, which will be able to make decisions on their own when it comes to scanning the environment, identifying targets, and even launching attacks. This is primarily due to the increasing penetration of AI in weapon systems, the rapid acceleration of big data, memory, and even computing power is not only fostering innovation, but also seems to be leading to a very inevitable weaponization of AI, machine learning, and as well as deep learning, for that matter. Then nearly every aspect of air power can be affected by AI, potentially leading to the development of new automated warfare norms. These include command and control, C2, decision support and planning, where AI is used in offering suggestions in increasingly limited circumstances. Training and simulations, ISR support. ISR is intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance missions through data mining capabilities, right? AI will also primarily streamline the command and control, the C2 operations, by converting data into a cohesive situational awareness, offering choices for suggestive course of action, and ultimately helping humans to take informed decisions. So I make my argument stronger by providing in some examples from the US and the Indian Air Force for the military use cases of AI in this particular section. Now I jump to Army. So the whole acquisition of modern warfare technologies parallelly emphasizes on AI tech that further empowers the conventional fighting capabilities of the state with the help of various autonomous weapon systems, AWS. Basically killer robots. So AWS acts as a force multiplier to the military forces. So as they can expand their horizons and reach areas which are inaccessible to humans, for instance, India has lost currently more than 800 soldiers in the Siachen glaciers, right, till date. And this is where AWS comes in by being deployed in the area 24/7, working on such geographical settings and other weather conditions where humans cannot access. The Indian Army had also demonstrated the precision targeting by a 75-strong drone swarm exhibition at the Army Day Parade in 2021, showcasing Prime Minister Modi's vision of Atmanirbharta. This is a very, I would not say that this is, a very new concept that has come up when you talk about Make in India initiative, when you talk about Atmanirbharta. It has been there since. It's now that the technology is rapidly evolving in the world, and the countries are realizing that there is a need for self-reliance and self-dependence in terms of beating the world in the rapid technological race, right? So when it comes to the challenges now, it is understandable that India is developing at a very rapid stage considering the domain of AI. But it has to be realized that there still lacks a lot of efforts for it to become an agenda setter. Now that India has already entered the AI arena by setting up its AI vision, there is a dire need to prepare a framework of important AI strategies to be achieved. As Professor Ranjan talked about the national strategy, there has to be a national strategy for AI, and it is there, it is being drafted, it is already out, and it's also being reframed altogether, which plays a very important role in ensuring the continued efficacy of the Indian Armed Forces. to further ensure the security of sensitive land and maritime borders. So in this section, I also emphasize the importance of integrating AI and semiotics to bring along fruitful outcomes. For instance, the decoding symbols on maps that represents various movements are easier for the military forces to comprehend and to see whether these movements reflect in those particular threat areas. So I believe that there is a need to form a common platform for experts from all three branches of the Indian Armed Forces in order to fruitfully cultivate the AI use cases. We talk about joint operations today. We talk about integrating airspace and space power altogether, which newly has come up as aerospace. You might have heard of this term. So these are such joint operations that not only require the best capabilities of one particular branch of the Indian Armed Forces, but has to be a joint command has to be formed in order to comprehend the attack, threats that come up along with in future, right? So the curricular reset is also necessary. There is a need to spread knowledge about AI, data and digital sciences to students to sort of create a base for them. We have recently come up with, I don't know if you read our Vice Chancellor's mails, it has come up, Jindal has established a Jindal Center for Digital Sciences, right? We have 4 experts working on that particular center, and we are going to start our first batch in AI, right? So this is what my chapter is talking about, and this is the very detailed account on AI and its use cases in the book. So over to you, Professor. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Vedant. Just a few very brief points, and I'll get to Dr. Arun, since probably he has to leave at 11:45. Arun, apologies for 5 additional minutes. Okay, a few points what Vedant mentioned. First is that 75 projects of AI. What he was talking about, Raksha Mantri, last year, there was a booklet which was released by the MOD in a public function, and 75 projects based on AI were, the details were made public. We all must understand that all these AI innovations, what we're talking of, whether it is drone, whether it is, hypersonics, it starts from, very basic level of the startups. Innovations will never happen, for your understanding, with, HAL or, Reliance or, Adani's big ticket project. Innovations will take place at the startup level, and what the design bureaus in Army, Navy, Air Force headquarters and in the MOD, which has been instituted few years back, they are hand-holding the startups, and these startups pitch in, and what the 75 projects, what Vedant was mentioning about. So this is very important for us to understand that startups are the in thing. In case we don't support the startups, in case we encourage startups on a technology, and then suddenly we get into, cooperative mode with, say, America or with France, and purchase the technology or acquire the technology from there, then it will be a big setback to that particular startup which was working on it. And once the model by the startup is successful, then it is put into the production line and taken up for mass production. Second is autonomy of a weapon system. There is a debate, and when the book also mentions about Yuval Noah Harari, he talks of ethics in AI. He, in general terms, is talking about ethics, but autonomous and semi-autonomous. The issue is the man in the decision loop. In case the man gets out of the decision loop, then artificial general intelligence, or AGI, which has the ability to improve on its own, in a geometric progressive manner, then it will go beyond control. And it will be difficult for the humans to control the weapon system, in particular, since he was talking about Army, Navy, Air Force, and about various other things in general. So, and Yuval Noah Harari, again, he says, to quote him, never underestimate the stupidity of humankind. So we should always, remember that. Arun, if I may ask you just one question. What is your sense on, getting the hard power going obsolete? Probably you have mentioned in one of the chapters somewhere that with the increasing relevance of emerging disruptive technology, the days of hard power are going to be over. So if you could just give me your sense on that.
In an absolute sense, I would say no. It's not right now. While observing the recent skirmishes around the world, I would say hard power is still the major proponent in defining the power of a nation. But however, I would add that with the global interactions that we are having right now, because of internet and because of social media enhanced communications, I would say each and other, I mean, every country is capable enough to influence the thinking process or the thought process of other countries. So while that is happening, our understanding, at least from the perspective of a researcher, I would not take a stand of calculating a power of nation as a hard power or a soft power, but I would rather say sharp power. It has to be a combination of both. Imagine a scenario where Russia completely disseminates Ukraine. What kind of global support will it get? Or imagine a scenario when the United States completely helps Saudi Arabia to disseminate Yemen. What kind of public support will that get? So one has to be careful about the narratives that one is sending out. And when I talk about narratives that are ingrained in the internet and how people use social media and how people use media itself. So I would say absolute uh, obsoleteness of hard power will not, it's not going to happen, but it's a combination of both.
Yeah, all right. May I ask the students in case anyone has any question from Dr. Arun because he has to leave. Yeah, please introduce yourself and go ahead. This for Arun, na?
Seeing its topic, it's actually a very of very much of interest, especially to me since I myself come from an army background. My father's in the army, so um, I have seen that institution from my own eyes since the very beginning. So I just had a few questions. I think it's getting late, so I'll maybe ask only one. Because of so much of like introducing latest AI technology in the military, uh, obviously we cannot introduce every AI startup. We cannot think of including it in the military. So we must have a proper developed strategy for AI, and it's used in the military in every one of the tri forces and the Coast Guard and everything. So because of so much of technology which is coming up and how the rate at which it is progressing, so uh, can we say that soon we're going to see laws about AI, laws made around AI, and especially uh, in particularly to relating to use of AI in the military? And then can we extend that to say that we will maybe even see lawyers specializing in AI and yeah, in the military as well? So to say AI lawyers, basically, yeah.
Got it. Got it. A quick answer to your big question is yes, we are definitely going to see some rules and regulations or even a policy on emerging technologies. Some examples, if not in India, you can see with the European Union, it has already got EU AI Act and it has given around 36 months, that's 3 years, for its implementation. Just a brief about that. One provision that EU AI Act provides is that classification of AI systems into three categories: high risk, medium risk, low risk. And as per the category, the technology maker or the service provider has to adhere by certain rules and regulations. So that is one example of how rules are coming up or shaping up. When it comes to India, there are other rules. First basic rule one has to focus upon is the data. So one has to securitize data. Watch out for the rules of TPDP Act 2023. That will help you a lot.
Okay. Do you
Yeah.
have the time to ask?
We'll
Uh,
give someone else opportunity. Thank you. You could meet me later after the class. We could discuss and probably I'll try to answer your queries.
Yes, sir.
Or if required, we'll approach Arun for that again. Offline, online,
Yes.
whatever.
Actually, this was kind of the question.
We falling short of
No.
time.
Yes.
Yeah, because
So,
they
everyone, thanks a lot for this opportunity. Uh, thank you, Colonel, and thank you, Professor Geetanjali, for giving me this opportunity to speak about my book, my chapters over here. And I'd be happy to take further questions. Please do write an email to me. I'll definitely come back with an answers.
Yeah, Arun, before you go, the question
Yes.
regarding the question which was asked, it's a very interesting topic to, research upon and, write a paper for all you students. Introduction to this has been given in the book, and, n number of open source material is available to research. Maybe it could be relative to what acts and legislations the countries have and where we stand, or whatever way you want to, put the research questions across and work on some assignment maybe for the center. Thank you so much, Dr. Arun, and I look forward to interacting with you more. Thank you so much.
Same here. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining in.
Yeah, Purnima, are you there? Yeah. Could I
Yes,
ask you, just one question? What is your sense? Your chapter talks of, relative standings of various countries, and you talked of India also in the chapter. So how, just to very briefly, in case you could give your sense as to how the civil military fusion has taken place in those countries. Yeah, maybe, because though I have a number of things which I would like to discuss with you, but presently only one question: how civil military fusion has taken place, maybe in China or in America, and where we are, lagging behind. Thank you.
Absolutely. So, like you said, civil military integration or fusion, that was so earlier it used to be called integration, and then it became fusion because of the vast expanse it can actually cover, because it goes beyond just society. It goes to, it goes to affect so many other aspects of life in general. So even China actually they came out with a strategy where they referred to that as civil military fusion, and it was more like a top-down approach, and they basically tried to disseminate technology even in the private sectors, where they were, be it in e-commerce and all of that, but AI started to play much more a greater role. So that being the case, they also have something called Building Digital China. And China is the only country which has, a comprehensive strategy per se on civil military fusion. Even if you were to see US, they have it, but not as a cogent strategy, but they have private players playing more a greater role over there. But in terms of China, it's more of a top-down approach where there's strategies on how they will implement civil military fusion in various sectors, be it in e-commerce or be it in military, and be it in also like just using robotics, to ease life. And in fact, by I think 2022, their expenditure or the revenue that they were making of robotics itself was close to $200 billion. And that you can also understand the kind of market it opens up and the kind of revenue you can also make through opening up civil military fusion. But in comparison to India, it's a little more nascent. We are yet to have a cogent strategy on that. So right now, we don't even have many private players in the defense sector to, increase the production capability of India. So we have a long way to go, but I think we're in the right path. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I would like to, when we talk of civil military fusion in, for example, China, would it be correct to say that in China, it is, the lead is taken by the academia and the government, and for example, in America, the lead is taken by the private entities and the
Exactly. Correct. Exactly. Because in China, it's more top down compared to like bottom up that we always see.
Yeah, because whenever China wants, because given the structure of governance which they have with their characteristics of whatever socialism or whatever their version of socialism, when they feel that Jack Ma is more into building video games for children, Jack Ma vanishes for couple of years, and then suddenly he resurfaces when he starts to pitch in for the hypersonic weapon system for China.
Sure.
Yeah, students, anything for Dr. Purnima? Any question?
Master student at JSGP. So, so my question is that do these countries sort of have at a policy level, do they have a vetting strategy for how they choose these private players to really, like to conduct a civil military fusion with the, and does India have one? And if it does, what do they do, and how, or if it doesn't have one, how should we do it?
Okay. So basically, they all have agencies, like how you have US में, there's DARPA, that is Defense, I'll tell you the full form. Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, that's DARPA. And you have in Russia, you have the ARF, which is Advanced Research Foundation. Similarly, in China, they also have an agency. And all these are supposed to build, coordinate, and, have logistical, they have to solve logistical concerns for building the civil military fusion. So they are the ones who, would probably be vetting on what projects to take and how to go about the R&D of the same and things like that. When you think about India, we don't have a cogent strategy on civil military fusion. We are at a very nascent stage. We are yet to increase our production level to the extent where we can actually diffuse it in the society to that extent. And there is also no there's no regulatory body yet. We are yet to have cyber laws, AI laws in India. There's a lot we can borrow from the Western countries, but then again, we have to adapt it to Indian concerns, because if we just take it and just apply it in India, again, that becomes a problem. So there is a long way to go for that, but we are not there yet.
Yeah, and Dr. Purnima has written a lot about in the chapter in the book. So I request you all to go through the book and the chapters what we have discussed here. Thank you, Dr. Purnima.
Thank you.
Yeah, Vedant, just one question. What is your sense is the present report card of Atmanirbharta in defense?
When you talk about Atmanirbharta, it is basically the self-reliance part of India. So when the Indian government launched Atmanirbharta campaign, so there was lot of defense projects that, Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. So that was one of the major key reasons to highlight the defense projects and self reliance in terms of indigenization of the defense products. When you talk about the Indian imports altogether, the funding has the shares of Indian import of such technologies and defensive products have increased over the period of time. So currently, I think it stands around 1.9. Last year, it was 1.95 lakh crores in terms of acquiring such materials. Comcov 31 is one of the projects by the Indian government that they are doing. We also have the corridors, the Tamil Nadu corridor, defense corridor. We also have the UP defense corridor. When it comes to the indigenization and the Atmanirbharta altogether. Well, I'm not very sure whether Atmanirbharta is actually conveying the message for self-reliance, because if you talk about assembly points of certain jet engines or maybe assembling jets in India, but you're importing most of the technologies from abroad, whether again it is Atmanirbharta or not, it is very difficult to say. Though at some point of time we will realize that Atmanirbharta can go up to 100% and we make our own products, we make our own engines, say Kaveri as one of the major examples, and integrate them into a very fruitful product altogether. We have Tejas drones, we have different drones but we still use technologies from abroad. So that has to decline over the period of time in order to actually call it Atmanirbhar, right? So that is my point on the.
Okay, all right. Basically, what I feel is, thank you so much for your response. Defense manufacturing is a very long-term investment. right? And unless government gives a financial commitment to the particular enterprise, no one will, come forward. So hand-holding by the government and support by the government is very crucial. We are, trading on that path, but the progress, as the speakers have mentioned, I'll give you an example. There's a major defense corporation called Norinco of South Korea. You would have heard of that. South Korea's aerospace industry, they received active participation from the government. And then there's a startup, a billion dollar defense startup in America called Anduril. You all can Google that and look for more details. This again was handheld or guided by the government for, to become a defense major slowly and slowly. So our aspiration has to be, though our defense exports have gone up, and our what the question was asked earlier about the civil military fusion. Now, the design bureaus, which I was mentioning about, what these design bureaus are doing, they are with Army, with the Navy, with Air Force. Every year, they release a document called Compendium, which has got problems or challenges or users requirement, you can say, for understanding. Now, that is put in open domain. This is what I was talking of when I say that national security doctrine should be put in open domain for all of us to be on the same page. So this compendium of problems is in open domain, and the startups pitch in, responding to the problems with their solutions. And then those solutions, depending upon the merit, depending upon the user's requirement, are shortlisted and finally, picked up. Pilot project is introduced and various stages, and then finally mass production is undertaken. This has been a success story. So it's not that, nothing is happening or the progress is very slow. But this is the Army Design Bureau, Navy Design Bureau under the MOD, and of course Air Force. This has been a success story, but yes, there are miles to move ahead. Thank you so much, Vedant. Any student with any questions from either of two? Yeah, please. Question for?
So in general, like for anyone who would like to answer. Anyone could.
You ask a question,
Yeah.
we'll answer first.
So my question is that
On the one side, we're talking of like cutting edge technologies like AI and then things like that, and introducing them in the military and how they could help in modernizing and revolutionizing us. And then on the other side, we have the issue of like civil military fusion and the establishment of like a private sector, private defense equipment sector in India, and that we depend a lot on defense imports from countries like Russia for various hardware and equipments. And and other than that, our armed forces also have certain basic organizational problems, such as say with certain schemes like Agniveer, people questioning over that something, and other organizational issues. There was something with the Coast Guard, and other than that, within inside the army itself, certain hierarchical issues like with the thing of officers and the buddies system, and it's minor issues, but
and other than that, we are still importing technologies like for the aircrafts.
Come to your question.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
So the question would be like,
will it be more a better progress if we correct these things from the bottom up, and when we reach a level where our military is well established and everything is well established, and then we move on to the higher technologies like AI and introducing them at that point? Or if we just start introducing AI and the latest technologies at this level when our military also has certain other issues which can be solved before? So which one like would be better? Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry I took a bit long.
Yeah. So Purnima, would you like to answer, or should I go? Because I have a few points for him.
You can say, and then if I have something to add, I'll add after.
Yeah. So as far as India is concerned today, it cannot be a bottom-up approach, because today if we talk about AI being so advanced, India has to cope up. It has to import certainly, certain materials, hardware or software, whatever technologies that we have. That is why, self-reliance is also important, but also we have to have certain alliances with our international, partners altogether. So to get to that point where the world is already far away, India has to buy some technologies to be able to make it up to the achiever success, right? So it cannot approach the bottoms up level. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Vedant. No, we short of time. We could, I mean, we all are here. We can always discuss all these things. There's lot to discuss, and the platform, the duration was pretty short. But we will be in touch with the authors and much more. Over to Vanchika. Yeah, Dr. Pooja, over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. And as the newest kid or the professor on the block at GSIA, I would like to congratulate Dr. Teja, Vedant, Dr. Purnima for this book. JII and PKG SS has actually come out with this very interesting book, timely for the situation. What I would want to basically the idea is for the entire school of JSIA, this book is having intersectionality of issues that it mentions. And though I have a lot of points to mention about the book, and I can always have a discussion with each of you individually, I think we should see it from the JSIA perspective, what tone this sets for the students of JSIA, both for JII and the students of the center. And there are 2 or 3 larger points that I want to just highlight and leave it for the students here, that the book brings out, and how it actually progresses. It gives us certain line of thinking for the students of the center, students of, JSIA, to progress further in these lines. So first idea that largely has been discussed is about the regulation of the technology, and the entire idea of who wants to regulate and why it should be regulated, because the technology owners are generally the private sectors, and countries and nations the governments have to regulate, but the limits of regulation. Now we have to start thinking what should be the limits of regulation, because if you under-regulate, the technology company would have a more autonomy over the usage of the technology, which nations do not want, because in the end users are people. If you under-regulate, then these smaller startups and the industries that we are talking about will not get enough help from the system and the nation. So these are the first debate we need to start thinking about as students in the international relations. Second, I would want to talk about whether these technologies are, and now because the book is talking about security and international, the emerging technologies. So security per se, I will take it as they have taken, is more about security of the entire, like in the broader sense, and not just a defense security, and defense is a part of it. So in that sense, if the security is the larger context, how societies are going to be involved in the, and because end users or end receivers of these technologies, whether from the defense side or on the state side, remains the people, and how people are being involved. So whether it would be society versus technology, or with society with technology, that is one important question that we need to also start thinking about, because all these technologies talk about AI, blockchain, quantum. On one hand, they bring us benefits of, fintech that we have been using, and the other issues that we're talking about, security numbers that we get, UID and Aadhaar and all, how they connect us together. But at the same time, they also bring about these difficult questions of surveillance that people are not very happy about. How do you want to securitize and regulate these things? Third important thing for the students of JSIA, and we need to think about, is how you want to securitize the entire, talk about the entire idea of usage of the state use of military and state use of technology and military usage of technology. And because military is not trained to build technology, it is just a war fighting machine, but how you change with the trainings of military, right? With the advent of technologies, what would the limit that trainings would induce, right? Because militaries are physically, like as infantry officer, Colonel Shashank will tell that there are different set of trainings that you go through. And when the technologies come in, then you have to require different set of training. So are you shifting from a war fighting militaries to technology using. So that those kind of questions I think are difficult questions.
Integration part of it, very important. Yeah.
How are you going to integrate? So these are the newer debates that we need to start thinking about it. And that is why I would want to end up by saying that because JSIA provides these intersectionality of issues, we have policy, we have law, we have governance, we have science and technology, and everything relates to international relations. So I think this book basically sets that tone for every other student in this entire system, in the center, that how do you take each of these points and build up the further debates. This is a foundation for you, for us all, and we need to further these debates in our future work. And in this regard, I would want to credit Dr. Pankaj Jha, because who has been officially my very first boss in this industry, and who has taught me to think about these questions, that do not take knowledge on the face value of it. Start thinking deeply, start questioning what has been told to you, and that is how you further the knowledge. I think this would be the rightful tribute to Dr. Pankaj Jha as well. And congratulations one again, and thank you to Colonel Ranjan for fabulously bringing out all the points and discussing it out with you. I hope you all go with the several other points to think about, and keep working on these issues. I think with that we should end, right? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bhatt, for the closing remarks. Thank you so much, everyone, for participating in this discussion today. We really appreciate the insights and perspectives shared by all of you. Thank you for being a part of this. Before we end the discussion, I'd also like to announce that as part of the Wisdom and Science Week that Jindal India Institute is hosting and also celebrating currently, we have this public lecture organized by Dr. Kusuke Shimizu tomorrow on quantum physics, Buddhism, and international relations from 12 to 1:30. The poster for the same will be shared by today afternoon. So anybody who's interested in this particular topic, please join in. Once again, thank you so much for joining.